Hey, all back on another live session of Sketchbook sessions, and I am going to be coloring this drawing that I've been working on for the past couple of with alcohol markers. Not these colors specifically, but you get what I mean. I'm going to start off with just like some gray. Good to get the base values down, and then I'll work on the color after the top. That's the best thing about alcohol markers is they layer very, very well. Still kind of having a hard time deciding where the light source was. I think it's just sort of ambient light source in this dark tavern. So honestly, there's going to be light coming from mostly this direction, but maybe some bouncing off from the left too. I'm just trying to lay in those values that I didn't get with the ink with the marker. Hi, Valentine's World. I can see your guys' chats, but I can't really respond back in the chat. But every once in a while, I'll look up just to double check. Kind of starting to think that I should have gone with a darker marker for this gray, but like I said, alcohol markers blend really, really well, and I can always go dark, but I can't really take it away. So I better just start slow. Thanks, Valentine's World. trying to think of form when I'm adding these values into, because I know some of these like bands of the barrel will stick up further from the wood, so I'm just trying to differentiate that a little bit. I'm kind of worried about the red pencil that I used underneath the ink, hoping it wouldn't really erase very well, but hoping it won't really show through the marker too much. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do about her tattoos either. Wondering if they're going to be colored or not. All right, so bear with me for just a little bit while I take one of these off for scratch paper. Because that's actually super important when coloring with markers, is that you have some way to test them before you actually start using them. Very oftentimes, the color on the cat does not really reflect what's in the thing. And that's what I mean by the color of the cap. So it's good to have an extra piece of paper nearby so you can test them. Just trying to clear space for my extra piece of paper. There we go. Yeah, I'm going to start off with the barrels because that will be easy. Knock out some color really quickly. And that is not a bad barrel color. Let's see if that gray actually made any difference at all. Honestly, it's kind of negligible. I knew I should have started with a darker gray. Normally I'd want that gray to show through the brown here. But that's all right. I can always go back over it. See how this one does. Yeah, that's the desired effect. So it's still kind of like brown, but it's much darker in value. Okay, so I might need to redo a lot of those grays. And then for the barrel themselves, they have a highlight on them. So I'm gonna want to use some kind of like orange or lighter color. Let's see how this does. It's way too pink. But I don't know if I want to just do straight up yellow. This yellow is kind of fucked up. It actually is, doesn't have very much ink in it, but that's kind of desirable, honestly. Might want to save that for some of the actual lit up areas. If your paper is strong enough, this marker is really going out, but if your paper is strong enough, it can take a lot of blending. And this is Bristol paper. It's pretty thick. But usually if you take a lighter color and blend into a darker color, you can kind of remove some of that darker color just to get the blending a little bit better. And that is the desired effect. So it's not quite so yellow. But yeah, I think that's exactly what I want to go with. Trying to stack the colors that I know I like already in one place, because once you get going, you have markers all over the place and you completely lost track of the ones you were using. Good rule of thumb when you're blending is to go with the lighter color first, then the darker color, and then back over that light area with the lighter color. Just coloring right over my signature. In retrospect, that was a little bit of a bad placement. But when I started this illustration, I honestly didn't really know how far I was going to take it. I didn't even think I was going to add a background, but here we are. Hi, Adrian. Nice of you to join the chat here. How are you doing tonight? Eventually, you'll start holding like 4 or 5 markers in one hand, which is a little much. But that's how it goes. Again, trying to think of the shape of these things. So I'm trying to get the shadows to inform on the curvature here. Still not like loving this yellow. But it is very stark, which is kind of a good thing too. It's good to practice with ink and markers. They're so permanent, and it really kind of like forces you to make good decisions. Not so sure that was a good decision, but we'll just keep on rolling with it. Need like a lighter brown of some kind. This marker is very squeaky. It's almost out of ink, which is actually working very nice. But probably should toss that one. Sometimes it can be beneficial to leave some of the white in there too. Markers are a lot like watercolor in that respect. It's good to preserve some of the paper for highlights. That's just about job done on the barrel. Now, since I have a lot of those wood colors out, I'm going to do the wooden beams back here. Although maybe I should try a less dark yellow if I have one. That's nice. It's kind of like an orangey color. And the dark gray again. I did the gray underneath just to establish the values. That way I don't need more than one kind of brown, because when I do this, it will be brighter here, but the gray will show through here. So it's kind of like a cheating way to establish values. Works really well. Remember, you get that blending to act right. You got to do the lighter color first, then the darker color, then go back over it all with the lighter color. I know what old red looks like. Quite old. I guess that's not bad at all. I'm going to try to add in some lighter areas in the bricks, but not many. That might be too light. Yeah, not too bad. These markers with the bullet tip are absolutely horrible. You definitely, when you're looking for alcohol markers, you definitely want the brush tip. It's so much nicer. Pretty much all of them have the chisel tip though, which I don't really use unless I'm trying to lay down a lot of color. Yeah, it's not too bad at all. I think, I wonder if I can even take away some of the color. Not with the pink. Maybe with the blender. I think the blenders are largely kind of not really worth your time. If you have a lighter color, they usually work as a blender just as good. But I'm just trying to preserve like a little bit of light areas in these bricks. Not too much light is hitting the wall. but I don't want them to be like a solid color because it's not interesting. So theoretically, the mortar should be some kind of gray color. And whatever's left over will be just perfect as a highlight. I just killed some of the highlights over here. Like I was saying earlier, alcohol markers can be very unforgiving if you don't think ahead and plan ahead a little bit, but they layer so well, it's almost impossible to make a mistake in the long run. You can usually figure out some way to fix it by adding another color. Wall ended up looking pretty good. How are you guys feeling about this drawing so far? Now I've got to start making some hard decisions whether or not I'm going to color her tattoos and just like what color everything is. I think the leather that she's wearing is pretty good as the wood color though. So I can keep that. Again, I'm not trying to do a perfect job coloring in the lines because I want to preserve some of the white and go over it with yellow. Kind of like how this is. In the sword hand. Hi, Catchy Facts. What kind of facts do you talk about? Catchy ones, I assume? Oh, I forgot the leather that's in the middle of the belt buckle. Dang it. And that other little leather knife holder. What color are the pants going to be? Honestly, gray is not a bad choice. I have to think on that for a second, but I do know that the bandana is going to be red. With this drawing, I was kind of lucky with some of the values were done already, like these shadows in the bandana I just did as part of the ink drawing, which is kind of nice. Not really a whole lot more values need to be added. All right. I need a color for the pants. Blue, maybe? I love that blue. That's too similar. That's way too dark. All my markers were nice and packaged. Now they're just kind of like completely all over the desk, which I know you guys can't see, but there's just like tons of them. Oh man, I bled my scratch paper through to hit my illustration. That's kind of a bummer. Oh well, I'm just going with blue. Whatever. Again, just like the barrels, I'm trying to think about light and how it would bounce off of all of these objects, including the fabric of her pants. Kind of looks like she's wearing blue jeans, which is kind of hilarious. Now, I'm going to need a good skin color. Maybe I can put this over here. Either way, I think that's too light. Too dark. Too weirdly pink. color is totally like near invisible. Well, I don't know. Maybe this one isn't too weirdly pink. I don't know. We're gonna roll with that. Here we go. No, it's not too bad at all. It's hard to tell sometimes when you're doing it on your scratch paper. Ah, is that the same color I used? It's too dark. That's the one I want. And try not to misplace either of these two skin color ones until I'm done with that. Using the lighter color to just kind of push around some of the ink from the darker colors. It's actually working surprisingly well. How much of that can I get away with, though? That's what I wonder. I think that's decent for the skin. Now the hair. The hair is going to be, it's going to be like orange. No. Blonde? Why not? There's a lot of yellow in the picture already, so I feel like the blonde kind of ties it all together. Because of some of the work I did with the gray earlier, it really does kind of do some of the values for me already in the hair. Just have to add yellow over the top of it. The shirt is kind of a creamish color anyway, so I think I'm just gonna straight up color all that. Like, kind of gonna miss some spots, make it look like it's old. But yeah, just do like a real shit job of coloring and you get natural built-in highlights. That didn't work. And color this mug. You can also get different values by just pushing harder too. But it doesn't really work as well as like actually layering colors. And then for that bandana hanging from her, we're gonna go no, let's just go red again. Where's that pink? Yeah, got literally like tons of markers laying around me. It's crazy. That'll work. Oh, that's supposed to be blue. Oops. I don't really care what color the separation between her boots and the shadows is, but I just didn't want it to be white. I think that works out just fine. And then for the end, this thing is almost finished, but the tattoo is not quite where I wanted it to be. I think the paper's all wrinkly from all those markers. I didn't really want the tattoo to be like a color. Felt it was way more like fitting the theme if it was just black and white. Black, that is. And that's pretty much it. Finished drawing. I would say if you guys stuck around for this past hour and watched me color this, you might want to check out some of my previous videos where I sketched it and inked it, and everything was done in my live section. So they're all there. Go check them out. And if any of you are still here, then I would definitely recommend subscribing if you stayed this long. You're going to see some excellent content if you do. But thank you and good night. We'll go in a little closer and zoom out so you can see all these markers.